Howdy folks, this is Justro at Metcalf Mills. Happy Sunday morning to you. I've got you another good video on an old barn in my community. Now I don't know as much information about this old barn as some of the other ones. I think it was built by Tildon, but I don't know much about him. I've not heard many stories. I don't know if he was just kind of kept to himself or what the deal was. But anyway, we'll check his barn out and we'll look through it and see all the details and get as much information as we can documented about it. But also, don't cut out early on me because we make a pretty good little discovery. Guess what we find? We find a corn liquor still. Yeah. So just keep that quiet, just between me and you. Now let's get on down to this old barn and check it out. Folks, the way this is, everything's pretty growed up, but first here you got the corn crib, and it's starting to come apart right here at the roof. Looks like this side's sinking down, and it's causing the roof to tilt down. The post is rotting out here, and it's going down in the ground. You can see on them posts, they burnt them just like they did up the Wiley barn. Keep them from rotting. This is a regular style of corn crib. You got your big crib doors up here that open, so everybody sitting around down here can throw the corn up into the crib. They had a trough here built on here. I don't know what that was for. It might have been to feed an animal if they was harnessing one up in here, but I wouldn't think they would be with the big barn out here. But I don't know what that trough was for. Big box right here. Looks like it might have been for a corn sheller or something. Maybe, I don't know. No outlet spout, and it ain't built like I would think one would be. Big door up here. Door to go into where you get the corn out of the cribs. Had a big door here for getting in the crib. Somebody's kept a dog or something in there. They've tore the wire up here, chewed up the wood. Over here's another door. Old wooden handle here to open it by. And them hinges are pretty stuck. A button latch. Little shelf up above the door up there. Same old style latch there. And over here is the big barn. I don't know much. This was Tildon's barn. And I don't know much about him. I think at one time he worked for the sheriff department, was a sheriff deputy or something. And I don't know too that Tildon is the one that built this barn. It may have been somebody beyond that, but I don't know that. I need to try to research and figure it out, I guess. But it's the same old log bottom style crib bottom barn with the 4 log stalls. And we'll go check that out. But it's not in the best of shape. It needs some work done on it. And you can see it's big gable barn, just like a Wiley barn. Front's not open, it's closed in right here under the front side. It's board and batten. They closed that off real good and tight. So you can see that wall's board and batten. Boards with the cracks covering it. This big gate right here. Mortise and tenon joints. A sliding latch. No, I'm sorry, not a sliding latch. A latch that you raise up, and I'll show you where that goes in a minute, but it's kind of neat how they done this. They just bored a hole through the latch board, put a wooden pin through there that the latch could hinge up and down on. Come over here on the other side, and this is where the end of that wooden pin comes through. And it's had that nail drove into it. A lot of times this is a common way to do something, to put wooden hinges on a door. You bore a hole, drive the hinge peg in, and drive a wooden wedge in the back side to keep it from coming back out that way. So it looks like this has had nails drove in it. There's what it looks like, or the wooden wedges come out. But the way that works is that wooden pin just allows that wooden latch to be raised up. And then remember what I said about doors before, this and gates. This angle brace starts on the hinge side and goes to the outside of the gate to keep the outside of the gate or door from falling down. You've got your hen nest boxes up here where the chickens would get up there and lay in, and that was common in my grandpa's barn. He had nest boxes nailed up on the wall inside, and that's where the chickens would fly up there and lay their eggs. No dogs or nothing couldn't get to them, but black snakes could, and I'll tell you more about that later. Big old locust post here holding this barn up. It's a mortise and tenon joint. The mortise coming out of here goes up in the tenon hole. I'm sorry. The tenon coming off of this. Another big post here. And you can see the tenon comes off of this and goes up in the mortised hole up in this beam. They didn't put a peg through it, I guess because they didn't think it needed one. I reckon that's right, because it's been here over 100 years. Now here they got a big, not hardly like a manger, I guess it is kind of a manger, that they'd feed their animals out here under the barn shed. And you can see right there is where the door opening is upstairs to drop the hay down. It's got some damage here where the roof had got bad sometime. Rotted out some of the beams. A little different style of building than the Wiley barn. This is what I like to see. I like to see, it's not a good thing, but you see that poplar beam right there still got the bark on it. And I do see some powder post beetle damage. You can see them little holes. A lot of times, if you leave bark on a beam, it will cause bugs to get in it a lot worse. I reckon it gives them a little habitat. They can get under that bark or in that bark and start working. It's a big old poplar beam right here, and it's got some bug damage on it. The notches in these logs are different. This is a saddle notch where it comes up and down. And like on the Wiley barn, it was a dovetail, a half dovetail notch. And when those were stacked up, it pulled everything together. But this is just a saddle notch on these logs. It's not dovetail. And this top log up here, these look like oak logs going down through here. They all look like oak to me, the bark on them. And up here at the top, you can see they put a pine log in. And they've nailed in this strip right here to keep something out or something in, one of the two. That's a pretty simple way to do it. Just nail that strip in there. And then that big poplar log on the main beam up there, it's still got the bark on it. It's crazy to think that bark there was standing in the sunshine sometime 100+ years ago, and now we can still look at it today. I don't think that's been replaced. I don't see how it could be. It's in a key spot, so it'd be very hard to replace. But the gate I was showing you here, it's got them regular old strap hinges. Now that gate closed over here, and that latch that I showed you that raised up and down, it went right in behind this latch keeper right here. It would just go right down in there and that gate would not open. So this hallway would be closed off by way of that big gate. And the work's a little different, you know. There's not as elaborate on the construction of this barn as there was Wiley's barn. Some kind of a wooden bench across through here. I don't know what that was for. Right here's another manger to feed the stock. Another hen nest box up on the wall back here for the chickens to lay in. And somebody at sometimes framed up underneath this beam, they framed up a wall here to close that in. The door's long gone. This might be interesting. So they've got a beam going through in the center of this, and then one at the bottom, but that's the only one I see is going through the center. And then they split out, hewed out pieces to go in between these logs to pretty much seal them off. Hardly a gap in there. I don't know what they was keeping in them stalls, but they wanted it to keep the wind off of it or something. Another reason this barn's probably deteriorated a lot more, you can see these bottom logs that they put in there is getting pretty rotten. It's the location. This location here, it's on the north side, the north facing side of the holler here, so naturally it's going to stay more damp. It's down in a hole that is next to the creek. Whereas the Wiley barn is up on that hump, and they had it graded around it till the water would run away from the barn. So I may have told you wrong. This is not the This is a 4-stall log bottom barn, but it's built different. If you see right here, this is one big room right here out of logs. Instead of a room over there, then an opening, and then another log room. It's just one big log room that's big enough for 2 stalls. And we'll go around to the back side and check that out. You can see these old door hinges right here. Definitely blacksmith made. Looks like this one down here is gone. It's been busted out at some time. That right there is probably the door that went on here. Somebody's busted it out off or something or another. Yeah, there's a strap hinge. Another strap hinge down on the bottom side. I don't see that other latch pin. I'm bad to get stuff up off of the ground and set it up to where it can maybe stay halfway off of the ground and not rot. But that had the same kind of latch. Just a wooden pin here, and the latch raised up and down and went behind this keeper right here. Right down in there to hold the door shut. This wall right here is built out of lumber. Looks like it's framed. You can see the damage to this barn right here. That whole main log beam is gone right here. Rotted away and gone. A little low opening here for some kind of animal to go through, sheep or cow or something. I'd say, by my guesstimation, there's a little catch here they could run stock in to work on them probably. There's a door right here to go outside. It's chained from the right here. It's got that chain running around to hold it closed. Now this barn right here, this was the end of the barn. So this wall was an outside wall. You can see how weathered it is. And up there, that was an outside wall. This room here, now it's old, but it's been added on. Just shed it off and added on at some time. And right here, you can see that tenon I was telling you about. See that tenon right there that goes up in the pocket, mortise in the beam? That tenon coming off of this post right there, you can see it real good. And that's because that beam is rotted out. Looks like there was a gate right here at one point. There's hinges on here. Went across. Right here, you can see this gate, and that's part of the original barn, I'm sure of it. I guess it'd be more like a door instead of a gate, like just them strap hinges, goes into the big post. There would have been another one on that side, but it's long gone. You can see these hinge pins right here where it was, and I would say this right here is what's left of it. I'd say that right there is what's left of the other gate that went on here. And what's happened, somebody's took it off the hinges and set it on the ground, and you can see where it set on the ground, it just went down and rotted as it fell. That's the thing about if something is touching the earth, it will just keep rotting into the dirt until it's gone. And right here's a piece of that gate, or yeah, door, and you can see that mortise right there where the tenon went in there and they put nails to hold it. It's a piece of that. It's long gone. Come up here, you can see back under the back hallway of the barn. Not as big as most of them. They've stacked rocks back here along this back wall. That's pretty common. It looks like right here they've had some kind of a manger. You can see a hole in the floor right back there where they dropped hay down, and they had some kind of a manger right here. Maybe they kept sheep in this little section. It's a short section, so I wouldn't imagine they'd have kept cows in there. You can see right here it had a real small opening for these animals to go in and out. So I would bet that they kept sheep in there. More damage right here where the roof's leaked over time. Here's a little door off something. No, that might have went right here maybe. They could open that and feed their animals some grain of some kind or something. Step out here and get us a look at this barn. Like I said, this shed was added on at a later time. It would have just, the barn would have ended right there where the main roof ends. The shed wouldn't have been on here. But I can see how this shed was a huge help to have this big dry side right here. And going in the hallway of the barn, what I was telling you about it's not a 4-cribbed log bottom barn, it's just a 2-cribbed. It's big enough to have 2 stalls in each crib. And right here is a framed stall. And although this barn is not really one of my favorites, you can see this stall. They've built the manger out of lumber. It's not half log, hewed out. Here's a door latch. What's left of one. Hinge pins. But what I wanted to show you, and I did this when I was young on a latch I made for my grandpa's barn. These latches on this are really neat and special. It's almost like each person that built a barn had their own favorite latch. Now these latches, they're real neat because the way they work. You can't just, a smart animal, a horse or a mule, they'll rattle a gate, and if they can, they'll get it open, and they learn to do that. Well, to prevent that from happening, the way they done this latch, it's got these notches right here cut out, and a notch here and a notch here. Okay, so when you slide that latch closed, it falls down just like that, and it will not slide open until you lift it up. You lift it up off of them notches. A little stubborn after 100 years. And it will not open until you lift it up off of them notches, see? Goes over, falls down, it won't move, lift it up, and it'll open. This is one of my favorite things about this barn. You see this old stall right here, manger over here, built out of lumber. Somebody's put a post in there. Floor's pretty bad upstairs. Locks. It's mountain ingenuity right there. Saddle notches on these log stalls. So this is what I was telling you before. The cribs is just two cribbed log stalls, but they were built big enough to have 2 different stalls in each section instead of having the 4 log stalls. Right here is a big pegboard, and they had this to hang their saddles and their gears for their work animals up here on this. They'd set their saddle up here, maybe hang their gears over here, or just hang their gears on it. They usually had a saddle horse sitting around that they put their saddles on, and they hung their gears on these big pegs. There's a framed manger. But this is still 6 stalls under here. You just got 2 frame stalls on the end, and the log stalls are in the middle. And here's that latch. You can see how that one works real good. See, lifts up, slides open, closed, slides down, or locks down, drops down in the notches. There's a lot of bark left on these logs in this barn. And this is what I was telling you on that other side. There's one log that goes through the middle. And that is what they used to support and frame the separating wall off of. That was a stabilizer for that center wall to divide these stalls. See right there? Let's see. That goes through the middle right there. I don't know if you can see it, but it goes right through the middle. And that's what they put the lumber against to divide these two stalls. Separate them. Here's another big peg, and they've had one bored right into the log right there. It's been took out at some point. Right here. Shims up there to keep everything exactly where it needed to be when I was building it. And they packed this out, closed that off with packing to seal it up, probably to keep their animals out of the cold wind, I'd imagine. See a little better in here, a framed wall, lumber manger. Floor joists here are a lot bigger than in the Wiley barn. Right here you got 2x10s. Wiley barn they had 2x6s, but they doubled them through the hallway. So on this one, they got 2x10s. Maybe 2x8s on the very outside. All the weight was going to be through the middle, so that's why they put these 2x10s here. At some point, some animal has chewed into this stall, so chewed in or out one, I don't know, but door right here, nope, won't close. Latch ain't working right either on that one. Framed manger, lumber. Here's the two big doors that they could close. So they had them two big gate doors on the back end that closed. And then they had these here, and they could put a lock on this. See right here, they got a hasp and a loop. They could put a lock on there and close that thing. See there? That's blacksmith made. That just closes together, and that loop comes out there, and they can put their lock on there. They just nailed a block up here for a stop for them gates to go against. They've just sagged down over time. Another manger over here. Poplar bark, little bird's nest. Now right here you can see the mortise and tenon real good. Now what's happened here is this post has rotted in the ground, and the post started sinking, and it pulled the tenon out of the mortise. So that's a good example right there. You can see what I've been telling you, a mortise and tenon joint. This post is cut down to this thin mortise, and I'm sorry, a thin tenon, and the tenon goes up in the mortise hole that's cut in that beam. And usually they'd have a peg through here, but they didn't, and so as the post rotted and settled down, it's pulled out. Somebody's put some stiff knees under here to help hold it up. I mean, this was a nice barn in its time, really nice, but it's just, that's the thing, if you don't build something in the right place, it's not gonna last near as long. It just ain't gonna do it. Here's a big gate that they had, like on that other side. The latch is gone off of it though, but it's about rotted, laying on the ground. They've got they took these poles for some reason, put lumber behind them against that rock wall. I don't know why they've done that. I never have seen that before. Maybe they thought it'd help hold them rocks in place. I don't know. Or it started kicking out and they done that to try to repair it maybe. Back here's the little door to this. Must have been a sheepfold that we looked at from the other side where they keep their sheep in there where it's warm. Another hen nest right here. Logs. You can see the presence of this green moss. That means moisture, a damp place, and that means the barn is not gonna last nearly as long. Somebody's nailed a horseshoe up here for probably a hook to hang something on, or to hitch an animal to. They're just waiting on it or something. There's that mortise that slipped down. And two, that when this barn was built, this was all clean. I mean, they kept everything clean as a pin. Wouldn't growed up around it like this or nothing. That just keeps it even more damp, and air can't stir around. And keep it dried out. Big old barn. Now, it's interesting, this right here was the old road bed coming up through here. This is the old way people used to travel. Now the new road, I say new, is right over there in front of the barn. So, people just roughed out trails and wagon roads, and this is what they traveled. When this barn was built, this has been the main road that they traveled right here. I can see a little bit of a cut on this bank. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a flat that goes up through there and back down. That might have been the original trail up through here 150 years ago. I don't know. But this has not been took care of the best. Here's what's left of one of the doors. It's about gone. It's just rotted. The other door's not even there. It's already gone. See, they had a little slide latch right here with a wooden peg. You just slide that like that to latch the doors together. Over time, I don't know, maybe they cut part of that out, but over time, that latch slamming against that is really smooth and wore that down right there. I like seeing things like that. All right, here we got some documentation here. That's good. See, what's this say? M-E-R-S-O-N. E-M-E-R-S-O-N. Emerson Metcalf. I'm gonna have to check on Emerson. And then it's got the W out here, like Uncle Wiley had up there out from his name. I gotta figure out what that means. Emerson Metcalf. What about that now? I hadn't seen that before. Glad I was able to discover it with you. Wasn't that fun? Now look at this here, how they've done. They've double floored where the wagon tires or the truck tires will go back into this barn loft to make it stouter. It's got the timber frame, the posts, and the timber up there, but it's nothing like on the Wiley barn. It's quite a bit different than that. It don't have all the same bracing. Right here's an old workbench. It's turned upside down. I can tell by looking at it what it was. And you can see this barn loft, how it's all shifted. Everything's not smooth and level. Where that rotted spot was is sunk way down in the floor right through there. Over there's that rotten floor. That might have been at one time been a big wheat box that they kept their wheat in. Maybe. A little bit of lattice work up here at the front. So they done a half lap joint on the beams going through the center rafter support beams. And they put this, what I call a carrying block on top of the post, which spreads out under that half lap joint. That carrier block spreads out the load and makes it all set on the post without jeopardizing the joint. Seen a lot of that in old mills. Just like all the barns, they put tier poles in here to hang backer. Let me scan back off here. I'm gonna mesh things up. Just like all old barns, they put tier poles in to hang backer in. You talk about a smell now. When this thing was hanging full of backer, you talk about a burly backer smell. Never smelt nothing like it in your life. Right here is some kind of a Hickey my Dodger. That's right interesting. I just wonder what it was. Tell you what it looks to me like. It looks like part of a corn liquor still. And I imagine that's where the heat source went in. And right here is where the cap was put on it. And this could have been busted up by revenuers, because it's got some big axe chop marks. Right there, somebody chopped it with an axe. Busted it all to pieces. That's what it is, folks. I'm about certain that right there. Somebody's put a hole in it over here, chopping it with something. That's what that is, folks. That's exactly what that is. They put their heat source right in there to cook it. Maybe gas blowing back in there. Same thing in this barn loft, a bunch of rocks. Probably the old wheat box right there. Yeah, that's what this is, I'm pretty sure. It's a corn liquor still, and they've revenuers has busted it up, chopped the top of it in here with axes. I would have thought they'd have busted it more than this, but I guess they figured there wasn't no use to. That's what that is, though. Sure as shooting. That's a steel, part of one. I hadn't noticed that before. I remember years back, I was never in this barn like I was Uncle Wiley barn or nothing, but I finally asked the fellow that owns it if I could, check it out, because I liked old stuff, and he said it'd be all right. And they used to be back here sitting against this wall. There's a big old sled, a wooden sled, set up against that wall, and there's a mowing machine in here, a horse-drawn mowing machine. And I talked to him a while back, and he said that somebody had come in here and stole his mowing machine and his horse-drawn sled. They come in here and stole them. And I hated to hear that, because they went with this barn and they should have been left here, but that's the way it goes. Well, folks, and two, like I said, I think Tildon that owned this at one time worked for the sheriff department, so that steel pot back there might have been one they busted up or something, and it wound up here. I don't know. I'd like to know more about it, though. I know that. I don't see no place for no stovepipe coming out nowhere, but so glad I found that detail right there, though. Emerson Metcalf. Very, very interesting. But this thing was board and batten. They didn't even have cracks. And it's strange to me because they wanted good airflow. But I guess they figured the lattice work would allow enough airflow for that. This is the old road bed. I said first road up through here I was talking about. Very, very interesting. Well, here's another old barn that's kind of documented and a little bit of its history is preserved, maybe. Maybe one of these days, if it's gone, we'll still be able to go in there and look at it. I know there's a lot of places in my life that I would have loved to go in and look at, and I never got the chance. But hopefully this will be there from now on, and anybody that wants to can go back and visit and check it out. That's my hope. Old barn, thank you for sharing with us what you know. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this video of this old barn exploration. I wish I'd have had more information for you to share. What I did find out from my cousin Ralph Metcalf was this. Emerson was a son of Tildon. So that's why his name was carved on the back of the barn, Emerson. So that's Tildon's son. We're pretty sure that Tildon's the one that built the barn. I love doing these old barn exploration videos, and it's fun, and I love sharing it with you. So we'll try to do them as often as we can. Like this video if you did, subscribe if you ain't already, tell your friends about me, hit that notifications bell, and I hope y'all have a great Sunday today. And we'll be coming out with another video here real soon. Appreciate y'all's patience over the last few days. I had some stuff I had to take care of, no choice. The girls wound up going with their cousins and my sister to Dollywood on Thursday. They had a big day. So, some things going on, but we'll be back on the tractor, so to speak. This is Justro at Metcalf Mills. I look forward to seeing you next time.